Hi, it's Scott. ROCKFILE back with another podcast review. Going to talk about the Clive Barker 1990 film, Nightbreed, in its new Arrow 4K edition. At the end of May this year, Arrow in the UK released their version of Nightbreed. In the United States, Shout Factory released one. You got the theatrical version in 4K, but the director's cut you only got on Blu-ray. That they even assembled the director's cut is a whole documentary on this set and that set. But I never picked it up because to me, well, the director's cut is the only version of this film to watch. If you know anything about it, it had an $11 million budget back in 1990. Coming off things like Hellraiser, Clive Barker wrote and directed this based on his short story, Cabal, or novella as they say, because it came from one of the books of blood. And Morgan Creek produced it for 20th Century Fox. But before it was released, they went in and completely gutted the film. The biggest thing, as you find out in the extras, was he made monsters sympathetic. The humans were the bad guys in the story. And Morgan Creek, the producers of the film, just did not think that was apropos for 1990. How well that would have played now, right? So his version was basically chopped up. The version that we have now that's available on this 4K edition is 45 minutes of new footage. Now, it's only 15 minutes longer than the theatrical version, but they've also taken out about 25 minutes of footage that Clive didn't need in there. I guess there were reshoots and other things, but they reframed the entire story. The director's cut is completely different for the most part than what we saw in theaters back in 1990. I remember walking out of the theater scratching my head because the movie, while it was interesting and definitely felt like a Clive Barker movie, felt like, I don't know, something was missing. Craig Schaefer, Ann Bobby, David Cronenberg, and Charles Hayde, along with a few other stars, are in this film. I think Craig Schaefer was a good choice. I think he's a little out of his depth to play the role, but he gave it a good shot, and he looks the part. And Bobby is great in this. David Cronenberg, appropriately creepy. He plays it kind of down, kind of quiet, kind of grounded, this role. Makes it even creepier. Charles Hayde, on the other hand, I think is a little overacting, a little out of his depth as well. Charles Hayde, you might remember from Hill Street Blues back in the day. Like I said, this was based on a Clive Barker novella. He wrote it. He directed it. He kind of wanted to disown the theatrical version, and you can see after watching the director's cut, he should have. So one of my favorite online video stores, Atomic Movie Store, is moving into an actual brick and mortar store. But I had pre-ordered this when it was coming out because I was excited. Again, Shout Factory put it out, but didn't put out the director's cut in 4K. So to talk a little bit about that, I don't know that I will ever watch the theatrical version again. There's some great extras on that disc. In this set, you get 2 4K discs that are stuffed with extras. I haven't watched the first disc. The second disc I pretty much went through. You get the director's cut, which is not the complete Cabal version of the film that you may have heard was out on VHS and DVD back in the day, but they did get the best film elements they could, restored 45 minutes of footage to the film, and what you get is the best thing they could do. And overall, it looks really good, by the way. It's not going to, shock anybody that this is not a brand new looking 4K scrubbed clean and shiny and clean. But other than a couple scenes of some high level of grain that were probably some of the lower resolution footage, the movie looks surprisingly good for a 1990 film. It was filmed on film. They restored it well. Whatever shots they have up converted, and pretty much the film flowed without me noticing too many things that were out of place. Another thing I really noticed about the film is the soundtrack. Danny Elfman does it, and it doesn't really sound like Danny Elfman. He's usually a lot of fast, hyper stuff. This is much more of a traditional soundtrack. What Clive Barker was going for here was kind of a monster movie flipped on its head. Aaron Boone, the main character played by Craig Schaefer, has these recurring nightmares of this place called Midian. His girlfriend encourages him to get psychotherapy, and that's David Cronenberg. And David Cronenberg, it turns out, is going to frame him for some murders and wants to start taking him some drugs and starts messing with his mind. Well, when Boone's in the hospital and hears about another person talking about Midian, he realizes maybe there is something to it, and he goes to find this place. And what you get, and I won't get into spoilers because, well, the two movies are very different. From that point on, he goes to Midian and tries to find out. It's kind of a mystery. And what Midian is a collection of freaks, monsters. It's not exactly vampires, werewolves, that kind of thing. These are all people who, for some reason, were born with some kind of magic in them. That's a theme Clive Barker has in a lot of his books, so they don't really talk about that in the movie, but they talk about being different. And they're all, one looks like Porcupine Woman. Another one looks like bowling pin made into a moon. There's some incredible practical designs. There's a lot of practical effects. There's very little anything superimposed, or we didn't have CGI in 1990. The director's cut is a much better film. You have a lot more character depth with our main characters and some of the side characters that are just kind of appear and disappear in the old theatrical version. Again, I don't know that I will ever rewatch the theatrical version. I'm not that intrigued on what the studio did because the director's cut actually gets like a 3 out of 5 for me. Now, the theatrical version got savaged by critics, but people are kind of reevaluating it now, this director's cut, saying that this movie's actually pretty good. It's about 2 hours now, but it's worth watching if you're a Clive Barker fan, if you're a fan of horror cinema, fantasy cinema. It has a lot of fantasy elements in it. They kind of have their own world. This movie's creating its own mythology. They were hoping to have maybe a sequel, maybe a TV series, maybe something else. Anyway, it failed, didn't do well because, again, this happens even today. Studio tampering can destroy a film, and here is a case where Clive Barker, there's some new extras with him on there, including the producer who put all this together, and he talks about if it were today, he'd tell them no. He'd take the movie back and say, no, you can't chop it up. We're going to release it as it is or otherwise. But he was young in 1990, and it was like his second or third film, and he just wasn't, powerful enough in Hollywood to go no, and the movie company who paid for it said, we're going to chop it up, and that was what was released, and he was never happy with it, and the audience was never happy with it. And now Arrow, I hope this gets a U.S. release. The 4K is region free because all the extras are on the 4Ks. It's in one of their chunky boxes, which I absolutely love. The booklet is fantastic with a lot of behind-the-scenes pictures. There's like 3 essays in there. They're pretty lengthy, and it's good. You get the poster of some really cool artwork. This is one I would actually consider putting up. And then you get the 2 4Ks and kind of, in a normal case with, and there is some cards as well. No, just the poster, not cards. Anyway, it's a nice little package in the chunky box, and I've had it for about a month. It came out at the end of May. It was an import. Again, I got it from Atomic Movie Store, so I didn't have to pay any kind of tariffs or anything. They do free U.S. shipping if your order's over $50, and I ordered it with something else. Both movies came in perfect, well-packed condition, and it's been sitting there for a while because I've never seen the director's cut, not any time in the last 20 years. Maybe I saw it on DVD back in the day, but I can't say that I was jonesing to watch this movie. But after watching it, now I understand because I've read most of Clive Barker's novels and most of his movies. I like Clive Barker and think this just didn't get its due back in 1990. So if you have any interest at all in Nightbreed or Clive Barker, I would pick up this Arrow Import UK edition. Hopefully it gets a U.S. release eventually. A lot of Arrow things do. There might be a rights issue. Some of the extras on here were produced by Shout that are on the Shout edition. I think the extras mirror each other. I don't know how much new stuff there is on Arrow. One of the big documentaries might be something newer. But anyway, I went through the extras. This is a great package. I learned a lot about the film, gave a new appreciation for it. The people who were in it, the editors even talked about having to change things in it. It's really a complete package of Clive Barker's Nightbreed, a kind of misunderstood cult classic that you may really enjoy. Definitely pick up this Arrow edition over the Shout Factory edition. I'm Scott, ROCKFILE. More podcasts are on the way. Please like, share, and subscribe, and have a spectacular day.